So speaking of hate speech laws, the UK has passed the Online Safety Bill, which, from what I understand, is supposed to protect children, but also to remove encryption from the internet. How do you feel about that?
Well, I've mocked various versions of the UK online safety bill over the years, and this one is just a combination of the worst aspects of the previous iterations. Most of it is unenforceable, and that's the good news. The bad news is that the political class in Britain can even conceive something like this and think
And
that...
it's a conservative that.
Yes, well, there's a reason why there's a difference between Tory and Conservative. It's a Tory, not a Conservative. The Tories haven't been Conservative for quite some time now.
They're Labour are running under the speed limit.
I'm not even sure that. I mean, even Labour now is running under the speed limit. It's turning into a uni party. There used to be a difference, albeit a mocking one, as you said.
Labour was anti-Semitic, Tory was anti-Islamic.
Yeah. I mean, there were, but now it's turning slowly into a uni party, which I suppose it's a good thing from a Labour perspective, but a terrible thing from a Conservative perspective. At the very least, nowadays, Labour voters should not feel so guilty for voting Labour. I mean, during Corbyn's times, Labour was just unvotable. The good news is that it is unenforceable, and the way the legislation is formulated is still formulated from the perspective as if the United Kingdom is an empire, as if the United Kingdom is not just one global player, but the global player. None of these things are true anymore and haven't been true in decades. So while the United Kingdom, of course, remains a very important market and it is one of the global players, it's no longer the most important. It's not even the second most important or the third most important. In fact, when it comes to online markets, I'm not even sure it catches the top 10, or maybe it catches the top 10 barely. So there will have to be a trade-off. Some companies will have to say, well, our users are far more important, and the markets we lose by complying to your market are far more important.
Yeah, but then you get the negative PR because the law is to protect children.
Yes and no. Thankfully, at least among the netizens, even left-wingers have started to catch wind of this. Because, of course, especially older left-wingers, they've been around during the Patriot Act. They've been around when other governments have tried the same crap. There is even a meme, right? There comes a guy with a pizza that says censoring the internet and says, what do you want it wrapped in? Protecting children or
anti-terrorist activity.
Or anti-terrorist activity. There you go. So at some point you can only play this book, or this card, sorry, as many times. At some point...
Like one of the things I noticed, so they want social media to scan the messages for pictures, right? And pictures, like, okay, like everyone knows what a picture of a child looks like. Like this is objective. It's not something subjective. But they also want to look for grooming. Now, grooming, in order to look for it, you have to go through texts. You have to actually read the correspondence.
And sometimes you have to go through months or even years of text. I mean, some grooming activity extends over years.
And not only that, but they also want to use these private messages to train their AI. So they can look through your AI, through your messages without a warrant, without any justifiable reason. And if you complain, they can say, well, we want to see how a non-groomer looks like. So that we can train our AI to recognize a non-groomer from a groomer.
Yes, there is similar ideas are running around through Brussels.
Yeah, this is what I wanted to talk about next. The European Union is also trying to pass a similar legislation.
They've been trying since 2008, so this is not even a new idea. It's already 15 years old. This version. Previous versions have been attempted at least 35 years ago. So none of this is new. None of this is surprising. It comes off as breaking news for younger people who are civilizationally speaking.
No, but like every now and then they pass. That's the problem.
Sometimes they pass. I have yet to see any serious enforcement, because the problem, at least for now, with the internet, the problem from the regime's perspective, is that it's heavily decentralized, and unfortunately for the regime, it's no longer heading towards centralization. I don't know if you've noticed. The internet is being re-balkanized as we speak.
I'm yet to be convinced.
To a much larger extent than in 2010. In 2010, it was straight up obvious that it was heading towards centralization. Nowadays, even the big platforms or whatever websites, they're introducing, no, you can't farm my data unless you make an account. First it was X, then Facebook introduced the same thing. It's increasingly more difficult to watch even public posts on Facebook or on Instagram unless you have an account. It's made intentionally difficult. It's going slowly back to the forums. And that's a terrible news for the regime, because the regime can control, or at least can attempt to control 2, 3, 4 big corporations. But controlling 4 million small corporations...
Yeah, no, I get it. But usually the small corporations are railed in by the big ones. Like if you have influence on Google and Apple, you already can bully pretty much the entire internet.
Yes and no. Yes and no. It depends. At the same time, I have to say that up until 5 years ago, very few on the internet, even those who agreed with you, even tried to do something about it. Nowadays, at least, there are some efforts to create parallel economies on the internet.
I mean, we had Parler, we had...
I don't know about Parler. I'm thinking more like Gab. Gab is trying to become an integrated platform of its own. Mostly transactions either via barely traceable crypto or straight up cash.
How many users does Gab have?
Well, on their market, I think they're running around 4 million or something, which is for trading goods and services, not social media. So, if that kind of model can prove itself to be successful, and we'll still have 1 or 2 years to wait to see whether that's possible. But if that model turns out to be successful, then at least there will be a template, and then we'll see. I mean, at the end of the day, it is our choice as users of the internet. And if more people choose to use the centralized platform, then it is what it is. And it is, of course, the fault of those who try alternatives for not advertising enough, or for not having their services good enough. I mean, let's face it, most of the so-called alternatives to big corporations are terrible. They're inferior.
Yeah, but the established corporations had years to develop where they are now.
Yes, but more of these alternatives have also been around for many years. I mean, YouTube is founded, in 2004? Something like that, right? By 2009, it was fully functional, and it was still not owned by Google, by the way. It was still owned by the original developers, okay? So in 5 years, it had become fully functional. Well, BitChute is over 5 years old now, and it's still dysfunctional. It just is what it is.
Yeah, but I don't think BitChute had money from the US military.
Neither did YouTube. YouTube started...
Google had, yeah.
Google yes, but YouTube no. That's why I'm comparing apples with apples. Apples with apples. Same with Odyssey. They had 5 years or 6 years to figure out their legal problems in order to avoid being railed by the Security and Exchange Commission, and they got forewarning of it, including official one, and they sat on their asses and barely found a fix at the last minute before they saved their platform. But they had years to prepare for it, and they failed to do so. I'm sorry, but you cannot blame the regime all the time.
No, I'm not blaming the regime.
Oftentimes it is the fault of those who may have the correct ideas, but they don't have the competency.
I'm just skeptical that the internet will change in the way you view it, but I guess time will tell which one of us is right. I want to ask you
I'm
about...
not saying it will change. It always changes.
Yeah, of course, but I don't think it will balkanize. That's my disagreement.
It's more balkanized today than it was 3 years ago. I mean,
we'll see. Again, I do think Elon Musk buying Twitter definitely shook things up a bit.
Yeah, but I don't think it's a fundamental change.
I mean,
I had a good laugh. We all had a good laugh.
All had a good laugh. Yeah, it's kind of like the same platform, but with a new boss.
Yeah.
Same shit, new boss.
Yeah, and it's almost the same as the old boss. There are some positive
I guess
differences.
like you can have more free speech regarding transgender issues, and
not just that. I mean, on most issues, it's definitely a less insane way of...
I did see more censorship regarding jokes and metaphors.
Sometimes, yes, but also the good news, the suspensions are no longer forever. The suspensions are like between 3 and 7 days.
I mean, I didn't push the envelope, but I did hear people suspended forever. So.
Yeah, I'm sure it still happens, but it happens a lot more rarely than it used to. A lot more rarely than it used to.
I got a suspension for making a joke, so and I never got a suspension before. But I don't know, like I'm not going to push it to see if...
I was only suspended once on Twitter before Elon bought it for a learn to code tweet.